Hey guys, Becky here, FiveTwoBaker. Welcome back. So this week I'm sharing with you guys a little demo slash tutorial to show you how it is that I get these gradient effects on my wafer paper so that I can make pretty little fans, and also how I do super pretty little designs like this rainbow leopard print fan I have here, giving me some real Lisa Frank vibes. The recipe that I'll be using is very similar to the original wafer paper conditioning tutorial that I made. I'll link that up above. However, I am adjusting for all the humidity and warmth that I have in the air now. So if you feel like you live in a more humid environment, then maybe this is closer to what it is that you need. But let's get right to it. Alright, so to get started with the leopard print one, what I'm doing is getting all my gel and liquid food colors and putting them in a little container, then adding some food grade alcohol just to dilute it a little bit. I want the color to be darker than what I'm actually expecting it to be. I mix them up and then I put them off to the side to have them ready with a paintbrush for when I need them. Now, since it's summer, the formula that I'm using is 4 parts alcohol, 1 part glycerin, and this is so that it firms up a little faster because we have a lot more moisture in the air right now, at least where I'm at, so I don't need as much glycerin. I go ahead and take my little bottle of that mixture, shake it up, and pour it into a little saucer, and then using a makeup sponge, I'll go ahead and soak it up, pick some up, and carefully, very lightly, I don't want to oversaturate the wafer paper, I just go back and forth on one side, flip it over, and do the same on the other side. You'll notice that the wafer paper starts to bubble up just a little bit. You just go ahead, be generous with the cornstarch, and put it all over, dust it everywhere until you don't feel any more sticky. You flip it back to the first side you worked on, and again, generous with the cornstarch, you just move it around, and once it doesn't feel sticky anymore, I press a little bit more firmly with my brush, kind of flattening it out, and just remove all the wrinkles that way. I'm sort of trying to smooth it out with my brush. Once I'm happy with that and it's no longer sticky, it feels a little bit velvety, and if I pick it up, it feels a little bit like cloth, just flops over. That's when I know that my wafer paper is now ready to be painted, so I bring over my colors. You can paint any color pattern that you would like on this, but I'm going to go ahead with a rainbow leopard print. So with just any regular paintbrush of whatever size you'd like, I'm going in and taking some of each color and adding it to my wafer paper. You don't want to have too much liquid. It won't bubble up too much because it's already all wet, so there's no one spot that is just soaking it up because it's dry. That's why this works. But you still don't want to be super generous with the paint and the liquid because wafer paper will melt if you wet it too much. Once I'm happy with all the dots, then I go ahead and I add some black food gel color, also a little bit diluted with food grade alcohol, and I add all the black rings around it. Black is a difficult color in my opinion to work with when it comes to painting, so I use very little food grade alcohol. At the end, if you feel like they're not dark enough, then you can go in over them again. And you notice this is taking me a little bit of time to color all of this, but the wafer paper, because it's all equally wet, it's maintaining its flat figure here, and you shouldn't really have a problem with it. Now, if you didn't wet it all over the place equally, then you'll notice some areas bubbling up because they are now for the first time becoming wet. But as long as it was all wet to begin with, in that clear color, painting on it should be okay. Once you're happy with all of your color, go ahead and give it just a very light little dust of cornstarch on top to help it absorb all that extra moisture. This is also why I said go in with a bit of a darker color than you want in the end. It's because we are being so generous with the cornstarch and it tends to mute the color just a little bit. And then carefully pick it up and put it on a flat surface to dry. I like to use these wavy foam boards that I use when I'm making sugar flowers because they are breathable, so the front and the back gets to dry evenly. It should only take 10 to 20 minutes for this to dry, so don't walk away for too long. You want it to still be a little movable when you work it into a fan. Now for the gradient fan, I'm going to need 2 little saucer dishes. I'm going to put the same ratio formula in each, but on one of them, I'm going to color it. Again, I'm going to color it a darker blue than what I actually want, so I'm adding 4 drops and then mixing it in. And then the way I'm going to paint it is using the same makeup sponge. I'm going to dip one end in the clear solution first and work that through the top of the wafer paper on the front, flip over my makeup sponge, grab some of the blue, and working from the bottom to the top, I'm going to fade it away slowly. So the goal here is to have a darker bottom fading away into the white. And once I have that end taken care of, I go ahead and flip it over, repeat the same on the back. Once everything is painted how I would like, then I go ahead and very generous with the cornstarch again, dab it all over the back so that it's not sticky to the touch. Again, you want a little bit of a velvety, smooth feeling. Flip it over and then add cornstarch to the front as well so that that is velvety soft and nice and dry. If it's a little wrinkly, again, you just need to be a little bit patient, but put all that cornstarch all over the place and then using your brush, just sort of smooth out, massage out those little wrinkles, and you should have no problem getting it nice and flat. Once you're happy with your color, go ahead and lay it out to dry just like we did with the leopard one. If you don't like your color and you think it needs to be darker, you can go in one more time after you've added your cornstarch, and then you just repeat the process of cornstarching again. Now my leopard print wafer paper has been drying for about 15 minutes. You can see it still flops, but it hasn't dried so much that it's crunchy, and it hasn't dried so little that it's just flopping about. It's like right in between. So to make the fan, I go ahead, fold it in half, and then I cut out an arch shape. And starting from the middle, I decide how deep I want these fan creases to be, and I work from there towards the end, just folding back and forth, back and forth. Because it's still a little soft, it hasn't set 100%, you shouldn't have a problem with it tearing, but we'll talk in the end what to do if it does tear. You go ahead and repeat the same on the other side, and then using some wafer paper glue, just go ahead and glue the bottom end of it. If you're going to need to add a skewer or a wire, I would add it right now before you go ahead and glue the little creases shut at the bottom. That way, if you're adding it to something like a fondant cake or a dummy cake, you can just pop it in with the skewer, no problem. If you're just putting this on a buttercream cake, you can go ahead and put it in, no skewer necessary. You just pinch the bottom and pop it right into the cake, or add a little extra buttercream and set it on there. Now if you do have some rips, go ahead and just add some of that wafer paper glue to it, and because it is wafer paper, it'll just mend it all together and you won't see any more rips or tears, but that shouldn't happen if you get the timing just right on when to bend it. Go ahead and set it off to the side to dry completely, and you are done with that fan. It's ready to go on a cake. I will say if you're putting it on buttercream cake, or if you're adding it to your cake and putting it in the fridge, I wouldn't add it too early. I've added mine about a day or two early, but beyond that, because wafer paper does love to absorb moisture, I would be a little worried if I did it any more than that. Personally, I would feel most comfortable adding it before I need to send it off, but that is all up to you. Now, if your wafer paper has not fully dried and it is like extra floppy, like this blue and white one that I have here, don't worry, you can still fold it up and just set it off to the side to continue drying later. The only difference will be that it will be a little bit harder to handle. So here, I just have to be careful when I'm picking it up, but folding it back and forth is no problem. And it's not so wet that the creases will not hold their shape. If your wafer paper is that wet, then you might have added a little bit too much glycerin. You might have to adjust your ratio. See, this is super floppy, but you can glue it and then lay it flat the way you want your fan to look, and it will set up that way and stay super stiff after about another 10 minutes of drying. The same as with the prior fan, if you need to add any skewers or wire to help hold it up, then right now before you glue the bottom would be the time to do so. And here go the wafer paper fans. Again, I love how they came out. The color is super vibrant and they maintain their shape beautifully. They've been drying for about 20 minutes now and they are good to go, whichever way you'd like to put it on your cake. Alright guys, here they go again. They're so pretty and so easy to make. If you found this tutorial helpful, please do give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already. I would super appreciate that. And as always, if you have any comments, please do drop them down below and I'll make sure to get back to you guys. If not, I will see you guys for the next tutorial.